I'm Robin and welcome to the Rebalance Pilates Postpartum Series. This is a 5-class series that is designed for the postpartum body to help you retrain and rebuild your core after pregnancy. It doesn't matter if you had a cesarean birth or a vaginal birth. During our pregnancy, we had a lot of load and stretch on our pelvic floors, and we need to take the time to retrain that musculature. Pelvic floor, like any other muscle in the body, can be trained, but we have to train it properly. If we don't, then we could exacerbate issues like diastasis, incontinence, or even prolapse. So I'm going to teach you in the first part of this video how to properly engage your core with the breath, and then we're going to add movement into that to start to get into our workouts. The workouts build on one another. So this class is going to seem very easy in its movement, and then we're going to build it and build it and build it so that by the time we get to the 5th class, we're really starting to move into some really good, strong work. If you have not seen a pelvic floor physical therapist or a pelvic floor physiotherapist, I highly recommend doing so. I really do think that they are like the magic bean in postpartum recovery. They are the ones who are going to be able to really assess what's happening down around the pelvic floor. They're also the ones who are going to be able to give you the best information in terms of what's happening at your diastasis and whether it is a functional or non-functional diastasis. So if you have not already sought out a pelvic floor physio, please do so in your area, and I am telling you right now, they are going to be so key in your recovery. So where do we begin when it comes to retraining our core? We have to start at the bottom, at the foundation. When we talk about core, we're really referring to 4 muscle groups. We have our pelvic floor, which is at the base of the pelvis. Our deepest abdominal muscles, the transversus abdominis, it wraps around us like a corset, and that musculature got very stretched out during pregnancy, as did pelvic floor. We have our multifidi, which are these little muscles that connect our vertebrae and go up the spine. And finally, our diaphragm, which separates our lungs from the rest of the organs. I like to think of my core 4 muscles like a house. I have the foundation of my house, which is my pelvic floor. It even has floor in its name. I have the walls of my house, which are my abdominals, the chimney, which are my multifidi, and then the roof of the house, which is my diaphragm. Just like any house, if the foundation isn't strong, the house begins to collapse. If the foundation isn't strong at the pelvic floor, then the rest of the core 4 muscles don't function as well. And when we aren't able to have that musculature function as efficiently and effectively as we like, then we have a hard time managing something called intra-abdominal pressure. We naturally create pressure in the body as we inhale and exhale, but it's how we manage that pressure and pressure change in the body that becomes really important in our recovery, but also in just our general core activation. So an example of this is if I were to just take a breath in and hold my breath, I can feel that everything has pushed out and I have a lot of pressure in there, but I'm not managing it very well. When we don't manage the intra-abdominal pressure, it can exacerbate issues like diastasis, incontinence, and prolapse. I'm going to show you, and I hope that you can see this here, what happens when I don't manage my intra-abdominal pressure versus when I do manage my intra-abdominal pressure. So I'm going to stand up. My head's going to get cut off here, but that's okay. I want you to kind of focus in this area of my body. I'm going to just lean back in space. I don't know if you can see this, but I have a doming here that's happening. And this is my diastasis. This is me not managing my intra-abdominal pressure very well. Now I'm going to take a breath in. I'm going to exhale, pull up through my pelvic floor, engage my core, match my breath to my core muscles, exact same movement, and I no longer have that doming. It is a functional diastasis. I've learned to manage the intra-abdominal pressure there. I am going to teach you how to manage that intra-abdominal pressure. So that way you're getting the most out of your workouts and you're doing them safely and we're not exacerbating those issues. So, where to begin? Okay, well, the pelvic floor lives at the base of the pelvis. It kind of looks like a diamond shape. I actually have a pelvic floor photo just behind me here. And it kind of looks like a diamond shape. If you think of a pair of pantyhose, then where the crotch comes together on a pair of pantyhose and where that sits on your body, that's where the pelvic floor sits, and that's kind of the shape of the pelvic floor. The musculature connects at the pubic bone, at the tailbone, and then at the two sit bones. And you can see in the painting behind me here, that musculature connecting at those bony points. We can visualize it kind of like a clock. If my pubic bone is 12 o'clock, my tailbone is 6 o'clock, and my two sits bones are 3 and 9 o'clock. So we've got that musculature. It's kind of like a dome shape. Now, we're going to talk about our diaphragm. So we've given a little bit of what the pelvic floor looks like. The diaphragm and the pelvic floor are linked in their movement. They're both dome-shaped, and ideally they should move in sync with one another. So we can't talk about pelvic floor without talking about the diaphragm. The diaphragm, when we take a breath in, the diaphragm flattens and lowers to allow the breath in. When we exhale, the diaphragm pushes the air out, recoiling so the air can be pushed out of our body and we exhale. When we take our breath in, we want the pelvic floor to mimic the movement of the diaphragm. So as we inhale, we're going to allow the pelvic floor to spread and widen. And as we exhale, we're going to think of pulling the pelvic floor in and up, just as the diaphragm pushes the air out. So if we go back to our clock image, as I take an inhale, I can imagine the 4 numbers of my clock spreading wide, like Dolly's melting clock. And as I exhale, I'm going to pull those 4 numbers into the center of my clock, or the center of my vagina. You can place your hands on your low tummy to feel that work too. So we're going to inhale, let it spread, exhale, pull those 4 numbers towards each other, feel the abdominals pulling away from your hands a little bit. Inhale and exhale. Inhale, spread the numbers wide, and exhale, pull it up. I'm going to give you another image. You can think of an elevator. As we inhale, we're going to let the elevator relax down to the basement. And as we exhale, we're going to pull that elevator up to the 3rd floor. Inhale, let the elevator go down to the basement. Exhale, pull it up to the 3rd floor. It's important to breathe out through the mouth because there's a lot more power in that exhale through the mouth than through your nose. So take the time to do that. Let's do a couple more and then we're going to start adding movement. Take a breath in, spreading wide pelvic floor. Exhale, pull it up. 4 numbers pulling toward the center or pulling the elevator up. You can also think of a blueberry. So we're going to inhale and allow the pelvic floor to release. And as we exhale, pull a blueberry up the vagina. Now maybe that isn't as effective for you. For me, I don't engage my pelvic floor as well with that image. I like the elevator or the clock, but use the image that works best for you. One more time, inhaling, spreading wide, and exhaling, coming up. Now, if you're not sure if you can feel this properly, if you're engaging properly, see a pelvic floor physiotherapist. They will do the examination and they will let you know exactly what is going on with your pelvic floor. We're going to take that pelvic floor breath and we're going to add some movement into it. These classes are going to be short because we're new moms or new dads. We don't have a lot of time when you've got a baby nearby, so these are going to be very short classes, but I guarantee we're going to do a lot in that short amount of time. Come join me for some movement on the mat. All right, we're going to start by lying down on our backs and taking a moment to find our neutral pelvis. And your neutral pelvis might feel very different now than it did before you were pregnant. And that makes sense. Our pelvis went through a lot of stretch when we were pregnant with our child. so or children. So we want to take a moment to find that neutral, and that neutral really is a tension-free position. So I like to place my hands into a triangle. I'm going to place my fingers towards my pubic bone, my thumbs just under my belly button, and I'm just going to gently rock between my thumb and my fingers. So I'm just kind of letting the tailbone be my kind of pivot point here. And I'm allowing for the tailbone to kind of tip down toward the floor. I can feel my back begin to lift a little bit from the mat and my fingers lift a little higher than my thumbs. And then I'm going to go the opposite direction where my tailbone starts to float up toward the ceiling. My back begins to flatten into the mat and my fingers lift a little bit higher than my thumb. And I'm going to rock back and forth. My key here is to keep my glutes and my hamstrings as quiet as possible and my rib cage as quiet as possible. That way I'm just moving through my pelvis. I'm going to make that movement smaller and smaller until I come to a happy medium between those two extremes. And it's going to be a tension-free position. So like I said, I want to be in a place where I don't feel like I'm gripping into my muscles. I don't feel like I'm arching into my back or holding my glutes. But a nice, easy position for me to be lying in. Now I'm going to start to add my pelvic floor breath to some movement. So as I inhale and allow the pelvic floor to stretch and widen, I'm going to let my knees gently fall away from each other. As I exhale, I'm going to pull up through the pelvic floor. I can think of my clock face drawing in toward the center of my vagina, and my inner thighs are going to bring the legs back up. Inhale, allow the 3 and 9 o'clock muscles to stretch and open, and exhale, pull up through the pelvic floor, pull those members into the center of the clock. Inhaling, allowing it to stretch, and exhaling, pulling it in. And I can keep my hands down on my low tummy muscles, and as I exhale, I can feel the musculature under my hands beginning to draw in and tighten as well. Inhaling and exhaling, pulling up through that pelvic floor. Inhaling and exhaling, trying to stay pretty easy through my core or through my shoulders and my back. One more time here. Exhaling. I'm going to start to wake up my oblique sling. So I can imagine that I have an X going from my shoulder to my opposite hip, shoulder to opposite hip. What I'm going to do here is take a breath in, and on my exhale, I'm going to bring my right leg to tabletop. Taking my left hand, I'm going to place it just above the knee. Taking a breath in, pelvic floor opening. On my exhale, as I pull my pelvic floor up, I'm also going to press my knee into my hand into my knee. Inhale, let go. Exhale, press. Inhale, let it release. Exhale, press. So hopefully you're starting to feel a little bit of muscle activation through the core on this one. Exhale. If not, that's okay. Inhale. Last one, exhale. Inhale, let's come down, let's do the other side. So taking a breath in. On my exhale, I'm going to pull up through my pelvic floor, then I'm going to add my movement on top of it. Take my opposite hand and place it just above the knee. Take a breath in. And exhale. Inhale, release. Exhale. Inhale, release. Exhale. Inhale, release. Exhale. Inhale, bring it down. I'm going to start to go into some toe taps from here. So taking a breath in and going back to my right leg. I'm going to exhale, pull up through my pelvic floor as I bring my leg back into this 90-degree tabletop position. I'm going to flex my foot here. Take a breath in. On my exhale, maintaining my 90 degree, I'm going to hinge at my hip joint to tap my heel to the floor, and then I'm going to lift my leg back up. Exhale, pull up through the pelvic floor, then add the movement. Inhale, lift it up. Exhale, add the movement, tapping the heel to the floor and lift it up. And if it feels like you're going into your back as you bring the foot down, point the foot. So as you exhale and tap and you point your foot down, it's actually limiting your range then with the heel. So exhale to tap, inhale to lift. 2 more, exhale, pulling up through that pelvic floor, those numbers drawing into the center of the clock, they're widening. Exhale, pull the numbers into the center of the clock, and widen. Last one, exhale, pull the numbers into the center of the clock, bring the foot down. We do this on the other side, take a breath in, and on the exhale, pull the numbers into the center of the clock, lift the leg. Inhale, prepare. Exhale, pull those numbers into the center of the vagina. Inhale, widen and open the pelvic floor. Exhale, pull it together. Inhale, widen. Exhale. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale up. 2 more, exhale. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale up. One last time here. Exhale to bring the foot down and down. All right. We're going to bring the heels a little bit closer to the bum. They're going to be bum cheek distance apart or sit bone distance apart. And we're going into our hip lifts from here. So, taking a breath in. On my exhale, I'm going to pull up through the pelvic floor, bring the clock face toward the center of the clock, squeeze my bum, and use my glutes to lift my pelvis up into a bridge. Then I'm going to inhale, hinge at my hips, and I'm going to let my tailbone lead the way down. Exhale, pulling up through the pelvic floor, squeeze the bum. Inhale, hinge the hips, come on back down. Exhale. Inhale, return. Exhale. Inhale, return. Exhale. Inhale, return. And I'm trying to keep my hips level with one another. Breath in, exhale. I'm going to stay up here. Okay, let's come halfway down and pulse it for 8. Exhale, 7. Inhale. Exhale, 6. 5. Squeeze the bum and release for 3. And 2. And 1. Hold. Squeeze the bum. Breathe easy, but still think of the pelvic floor engaging, thinking how the waist is pulling it around the center. If you are still pregnant, you could use the image of giving the baby a hug in here. Glutes are on. Trying to feel it primarily in the bum, not so much in the hamstrings. You will feel it there, but try to feel it more in the bum. 2 and 1, we're going to hinge and come all the way down. We're not done. Here's a little break for you. Exhale, pull up through that pelvic floor. Think of the elevator going up to the 3rd floor. Squeeze the glutes, come up and stay. We're going to lift the right heel up and down, and then the left heel up and down. So I'm breathing easy. I'm pulling my waist in and giving the baby a hug in and squeezing my bum. I have energy between the inner thighs. And 3. And 2, we're going to do one more time on each side to be equal. Exhale. And then I'm going to hinge at my hips and I'm going to come back down. Nicely done. All right. Let's come to lie on our side. We're going to go into some side lying work here. We're going to start with the classic Pilates clam. So, I have my legs about 45 degrees from my hip joint, and my heels are in line with my bum. I'm going to reach my top bum cheek toward the end of my mat. That's going to allow my spine to lengthen so I'm not sinking into my waist. Take a moment here to do the pelvic floor breath again. It's going to be harder to feel here. That's okay. But we're still going to practice it. So we're going to take a breath in, think of the pelvic floor widening or the elevator going to the basement. And on the exhale, we're going to pull the pelvic floor, pull the elevator up to the 3rd floor. Inhale, let it relax to the basement. Exhale, pull the elevator to the 3rd floor. You can think of your clock face. the numbers are widening. Exhale, pull the numbers in toward the center of the clock. One more time here, inhale. And exhale. We're adding movement. We're gonna inhale, prepare. On the exhale, as I pull up through my pelvic floor, I'm gonna give my bum a squeeze, keep my feet together, and create a diamond with my legs. Inhale it back down. Exhale it up. Inhale it down. Exhale it up. Inhale it down. And 4. And 5. And 6. 7. And on 8, we're going to hold it up there, go into pulses, down and up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We're going to come back down. Bringing the knees up, we're going into our open book. So again, I'm going to reach my top hip nice and long. My tummy's going to be active, taking a breath in. I'm going to exhale, squeeze my bum, lift the leg up, and come back down. Now, if you followed along with the postpartum series, especially in the 3rd trimester video, the last video of the series, that included, or that video was all about recovery, birth prep, and then movements for recovery. We are looking at some of those movements right now that are based on the Core Confidence program by Pelvic Wellness, which I am certified in. So these are exercises that we do as part of our postpartum recovery to help strengthen not just pelvic floor, but glutes, which are very important for pelvic stabilization. So we're looking at that, but I'm also building on those exercises as well. We have 2 left here. Hopefully you can feel that glute working. I certainly can. And one more time, we're going to stay up there, and I'm going to give you a little bit more work. We're going to circles. We are circling 1, 2, 3. You can imagine you're drawing circles with your knee for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're reversing the direction of that for 8 and 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo! And coming down. We're going to go into an exercise called Spinal Rotation. It feels so nice for the body here, especially postpartum. So my legs are bent. I'm going to reach my top arm out, sweeping my arm down like it's a clock pendulum. I'm going to turn my palm up to the sky. I'm going to rotate my head, lifting my arm up onto a diagonal. I'm going to let my top leg relax back, and I get a stretch through that glute that I just worked, and my spine is nice and rotated. And then I'm going to swing my arm back down toward my hip like the clock pendulum, sweeping back the opposite direction. Let's do that again. Sweep the arm down. The palm is going to turn upward. I'm going to rotate my head, my collarbone, my rib cage. I'm going to let my pelvis relax and move with me. And I'm going to exhale. I'm going to sweep the arm back down. You don't have to worry about your pelvic floor engagement on this. We're just looking for some nice mobilization and stretch. Sweep the arm down, palm up to the sky, opening up through the chest. Head is looking at the hand, and then I'm sweeping it back. And returning. We're going to turn ourselves around and do all of this on the other side. So I like to have my little baby on the floor next to me when I do my sideline work. I can still engage with her, but it also allows me to get a little bit of a workout in. So I'm going to make sure that I am stretching my bum cheek toward the end of my mat, so that way I'm lifted in the waist. Taking my breath in. Oh, I have to make sure that my heels are under my bum as well. And as I exhale, I'm going to engage my glute. I'm going to lift up, and then I'm going to lower down. Exhale up, and inhale down. Now, if you find that on this single leg work that we're doing, you're getting pain around the pelvic girdle, it would be a really great idea to check in with a pelvic floor physical therapist or physiotherapist. They can see what's going on, They can give you the exercises that you need to help resolve that issue. And let's do 3 more. And 2 there. I honestly think they're the magic ingredient in recovery. Last one, we're gonna stay up here and pulse it. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we are coming down. I'm gonna bring my knees up to that 90-degree position, reaching my bum out nice and long, pulling the tummy muscles in. Squeezing my bum, exhale, lift. Inhale back. And I'm trying very hard not to rotate my pelvis back. So trying not to twist through my spine and drop my hip back as I lift the leg. So that means that I'm working a lot harder through my glute as I do this. Let's do this for 4. Whew. And 3. I am already tired. I don't know about you. 2. And 1. We've got our 8 circles in each direction here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Reverse it. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and coming down. Here's our spinal rotation. I'm reaching the arm out in front of me, sweeping it down toward my hip, turning the palm to the ceiling, letting the head rotate, opening up through the chest, letting my head look at that hand, and then sweeping it back down. And up. Let's do it again 2 more times. Sweep the arm down, rotate, opening up through the chest to the ceiling, and coming back. And one last time here, sweep and open. Oh, that feels so good for the body. And back. And we're going to come up to sitting. We're going to look at an exercise called the half roll back. If you did the prenatal series, we did do a lot of half roll back work. We are looking at it again here. So I'm sitting tall on my sit bones, and my hands are going to be behind my knees. I'm going to imagine that my pelvis is a wheel, and I'm going to use my tailbone to sort of lead the rolling movement of my wheel. So taking my breath in. On my exhale, as I pull up through the pelvic floor, I'm going to let the tailbone lead the movement and roll toward my pubic bone, and it takes me into a little scoop of the low tummy. I'm going to take a breath in. And as I exhale, I'm going to roll my tailbone back to the starting position, getting nice and tall on my bum. And I'm going to do that again. Take a breath in. And exhale, scooping through the tummy muscles. Trying to lead from my pelvis as I do this. Breath in. Exhale, rolling myself back up. So it's going to be really easy to just kind of want to roll from the mid-back and then push my ribs forward to help me come back up. But I really do want to try to work from the pelvis, so that way I'm really targeting the low abdominals. Breath in. As I exhale and pull up through the pelvic floor, I'm going to let the tailbone roll under me. I'm going to give you another image here. As I exhale and roll back up, I want to imagine that someone's pulling my yoga pants up for me. So that way I'm really focusing on the pelvis doing the movement to lift me up out of that roll and not pushing from my back. We're going to do 2 more here. Scooping, exhale as I roll off of my sits bones. Exhale, roll that pelvis under you. Get tall, tall, tall through the spine. 1 more time here. Exhale as I roll. I'm going to keep my collarbone wide. I don't want to collapse in the chest. I'm going to stay nice and open. And as I exhale, again, I'm going to roll myself tall through the spine. Someone's pulling my yoga pants up, so I'm really lifting up onto that sits bones. Excellent. That's just a nice little introduction to that work. We will build on it as we move through these classes. We're going to come onto our hands and knees, though, for the last part of this class. So, hands, the wrist, elbow, and shoulder are in line with each other, and the knee and the hip are in line with each other. I'm going to let my belly relax. As I exhale, I'm going to pull and give the baby a hug in, pulling up through my pelvic floor. So you can see that as I inhale and I allow the musculature to release. And then as I exhale and pull up through the pelvic floor, my back hasn't changed, but my abdominals pulled in. So this is a great place to check to see if you're engaging those abs, because you're working against gravity, so you can feel the lift of the abdominals. What I want you to be careful of here is that you don't end up using your back to do the work. So I'm allowing my abdominals to release, but as I pull the abdominals back up, I don't want you to round into the back. That's using your spine to do the movement and not your abs. I want you to do it one more time. And exhale, pull the abdominals in, pull up through that pelvic floor, and we're gonna maintain that support. Taking a breath in, I'm gonna squeeze my bum, and I'm gonna put my footprint up on the ceiling. And then I'm gonna hinge at my hips and come back down. I'm gonna try to keep the tummy supported. You can imagine, if you were still pregnant, the idea of giving the baby a hug into the body. And exhaling up and inhaling down. Working very hard here not to sink into my hip. Inhaling down. Let's do this for 4. Inhale. Exhale up for 3. And 2. One more time. I'm going to hold that there, flex my foot, little pulses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Hold that. Reach out through the heel. Bend it back in. Take breaks when you need it. Inhale, exhale back. Inhale, exhale back. And I am looking at the end of my mat, so I'm not dropping my head. And I'm trying very hard to keep my hips square to the mat, so I'm not rotating. I got 2 left here. Inhale, and in. One more time, inhale. Exhale, bring it in. Inhale, lower the leg. Woo, feeling that glute getting some work. We gotta do the other side. So the belly is gonna pull in for support, give the baby a hug in. I'm gonna engage my glute, put my footprint up on the ceiling, and then come back down. Again, trying not to rotate through the hip, but keeping my hips square to the floor. Exhaling up, inhaling down, and 3, 4, inhaling it down, exhale, 5. I'm actively pushing that floor away so I'm not sinking into my shoulders. 7. On this last one, 8, hold it up there, hold it, flex the foot, pulse it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Reach out, exhale, bring it back. Inhale, reach, exhale, bend. Push that floor away, pull those abdominals in. If you started to let them go, give the baby a hug in. Keep your head looking toward the end of the mat, or your eyes looking toward the end of the mat. I got 1 left here, out. Exhale it back, inhale down, child's pose, stretch it out. We are almost done today. We're gonna finish with some modified push-ups. So I love 4-point meal work postpartum because I can put my baby on the mat and I'm right over top of her, and I love doing push-ups, not because I love doing push-ups, nobody loves doing push-ups, but it lets me engage with her. So I have my arms wide. Again, I'm trying to keep my knees under my hips, my arms relatively in line with my shoulders are a little bit wider than that. And I'm gonna inhale, hinging at my hips. I'm lowering my face right down to the floor. Exhale, pulling up through the pelvic floor as I come up. Inhale, lower, exhale up. So I'm not sending my bum back towards my heels as I do this. Instead, I'm really just lowering my face to the floor and up. And what I love is if my baby is here, I can give her a little kiss, and exhale up. And I can lower down and give her a kiss, and up. And she thinks it's hilarious. So it's motivation to do these push-ups. And up. We're gonna do 3 more. Inhaling down, exhaling up. Inhaling down, exhaling up. 1 more time. Inhaling down, exhaling up. Push yourself back into a little child's pose and let yourself stretch. Breathing easy here. We're gonna roll ourselves up through the spine, stacking up our vertebrae, sitting comfortably. We're going to finish with a little bow and arrow, my favorite exercise. Bringing the arms out in front. I'm going to turn my head to the right, bending my right elbow. And as I rotate my head and my collarbone and my rib cage, I'm going to keep looking at that right elbow. And then I'm going to come back. You can do that on the other side. The head, the collarbone, the rib cage begin to rotate around the spine. Head is looking at the elbow and then controlling as I come back. So a challenge for me, and it may be a challenge for you, is to stay spiraling straight up toward the ceiling. I have a tendency, especially on my left side, to lean away from the work. So I end up kind of doing this. That is really difficult for me, to stay with the work. Stay with the side you're rotating toward so you don't lean away from it. Stay with the work. We're going to do one more time here. Head, collarbone, rib cage rotating around, and coming back, and the arms are down. Thank you so much for joining me for class number 1 of our 5-part postpartum series. I hope that this work helps you as much as it helps me. Again, rebuilding that pelvic floor, knowing how to retrain it properly and getting that breath down are so key for doing all the other activities that you want to do. It's also key for the little activities, like just picking your baby up and making sure that you don't leak when that happens. Because let's not kid ourselves, even just a little bit of leaking when you laugh or pick your baby up or sneeze, that's a level of incontinence. We don't want to deal with that. We want to have strong pelvic floors. So thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't seen a pelvic floor physical therapist or physiotherapist, please go check one out. And I look forward to seeing you in our next class. Thank you, everyone.